Good evening. It is Tuesday, July 26, 2016. My name is Jacob.
And I'm Danielle.
And we are the Proteus Podcast. Ideas in all shapes and forms.
Well, how are you doing today, Jake?
I'm doing well, I think.
And what does "I'm doing well" I think mean?
It means no one's told me I'm not doing well.
So, contrary to the belief of some others, you are doing well. But if they told you that you weren't doing well, you probably couldn't.
Something along those lines. It basically means I haven't seen a cardiologist in a long time.
Okay. I was thinking that, like a dark. I was thinking more along the lines of like a bumblebee. It flies because no one tells it that it can't.
Yeah, oh, wow, don't even get me started on that. That whole thing, super wrong.
What about hummingbirds?
Hummingbirds have no problem. The whole thing, I'm just going to go through this super quick because I can't stand to spread the disinformation. The thing about bumblebees not being able to fly is based on the aerodynamic principles found using fixed-wing aircraft. However, you may have noticed bumblebees are not fixed-wing aircraft. And applying the physics found of flappy-winged flying creatures, bumblebees are allowed to fly just fine.
Okay.
They can't glide for shit.
So we need to develop an aircraft that flaps around like a bumblebee.
We tried. It's a real rotten bastard if really the problem becomes a materials engineering issue.
Finding a material that doesn't splinter apart when it starts going millions of miles an hour.
Well, it's you're going to have repetitive stress on lots of joint pieces over and over and over again at incredibly high rates of speed, and they have to be incredibly light. And once you get into strong and light over long stress periods, materials science becomes a real monster.
So what you're saying is we need to invent an enlarging ray and enlarge bumblebees and ride on them.
Sure. Well, no. I watched a really fun video about Ant-Man today that basically says that, well, that would be hilarious. It would also they'd be able to fly even better because they'd be lighter than air.
Oh yeah, but that's I'm not talking about the Ant-Man logic.
Hey, it's legitimate science.
Ish.
It is.
Ish.
The thing they talked about that was changing the size of Ant-Man is a real thing that affects the distance between the parts of the insides of atoms.
Yeah, but that's not how Ant-Man works.
That's what
because his mass also increases, just as the mass also decreases.
Yeah, the point is the explanation they gave in the movie, his mass would stay the same, which means he'd be able to drop through a table just by standing on it. Because he's a fucking needlepoint. Well, it weighs 200 pounds, and if you inflated him to giant gargantuan proportions, he'd be like a rubber bouncy castle blowing away in the wind.
Right, but that's not what happens.
That's not what happens, because it's movies, and
do you remember?
Sometimes you gotta go, okay, there's physics. Just gonna
I was actually
lock
thinking
that in
more
a closet.
Do you remember the movie Honey, I Shrunk the Kids?
I do remember Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
And then like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Honey,
there was like
I Blew Up the Kid. And
Honey, I Blew Up the Kid
3, and Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves. And then Rick Moranis quit acting, and they had to quit making him.
Yeah, because Rick Moranis was like, I'm retired.
I'm gonna go be a dad instead.
I'm gonna go be a dad.
Good fella, that one.
I'm gonna go do this thing now. Now he doesn't even do interviews.
Yeah, he seems like a real upright, nice kind of guy.
Because he quit the show business?
Because he did it to take care of his kids because his wife died. And he was like, you know what? My kids need me. It's more important than being in movies.
How old are his kids, you think?
They're probably about grown by now, but, that was a long time ago, and it's probably hard to get back into the business after 20 or so years.
I'm sure he could do it.
I'm sure he could. He could have made a great comeback for the new Ghostbusters, which probably wouldn't have helped it not bomb anymore, but, who cares?
I'm
not even going to go watch it. I'm just going to see it on Netflix in 5 years.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. That and the new Star Trek movie.
Hey, I'm told the new Star Trek movie's really good.
See, everyone tells me that the new Star Trek movie's good, and then I go, tell me, what social ideas does it challenge, And is it just rocket tag? And they're like,
see, you just set the
maybe?
bar too high for Star Trek movies.
Maybe Star Trek has a high standard because it deserves a high standard.
Well, rumor has it they challenged some social ideas in this one. It was on the news.
Wait, it was on the news?
George Takei decried the social standard that they were going to challenge.
You know what? I
don't really actually care, you know.
He did not decry. He said he was disappointed. Once again, this goes about
similar
them
to
going
decrying.
Against... So, okay, that's not decrying. Saying that you're disappointed does not decry something.
Look, in today's black and white media, if you don't like it, if you say you're disappointed in it, it counts as decrying it.
I would assume that we, as somewhat intelligent, grown-up individuals, are not the black and white media.
That's why I'm saying this. This is just to goad you into being mangry about it. It's fun.
Mangry?
Mangry.
Describe this word mangry.
Mad and angry.
Right. So
Mangry.
I'm neither of those. I'm irritated.
Like I said, I was trying to goad you. It wasn't working.
So, yeah. Disappointed. Well, and back to the point, it's because they went away from Gene Roddenberry's vision.
Well, if he hadn't up and stopped being alive, he could have probably maintained control of that vision. Unfortunately, human beings are invested with a finite lifespan.
Wow, you are now death-shaming.
I didn't say it was his fault. I said he was struck down by the nature of humanity.
You were death-shaming.
That's not death-shaming.
You said that if he hadn't have gone up and died...
But then I recanted and said he was vested with a finite lifespan.
So after I called you out for death-shaming...
I recanted before you said the word death-shaming. Maybe we should just start over.
No, this is good.
I feel like we're both losing an argument, and it's not the same one for either of us.
Right. Okay, so let's rewind a little bit. Rick Moranis on a white horse, riding into the sunset, away from Tinseltown, to save his children in the great land of non-film.
I think Canada. I don't remember.
I think Canada or upstate New York.
Sure, those are definitely not the same place.
But in a lot of ways, Rick Moranis, by taking the high road, even he kind of set his own life up in a way of a movie. Like, think about it.
Oh,
here's a guy.
The happily ever after type ending.
Well, who knows? It's going to be happily ever after. I mean, in your words, he hasn't reached his terminal amount of years.
That's not what I said.
But he's not there. He's not there yet. He's like in between movies right now. He's like in the seat. He's like ran off into the sunset. We're waiting for a sequel.
Oh, right. Okay.
But riding off into the sunset is...
So that you can camp 3 miles outside of town right after it gets dark?
Yeah, that would... and that right there is why tropes... That right there is why tropes don't work.
That right there is an example of a trope that doesn't work.
Because you leave at sunrise, right?
Yeah.
You want to get away. You don't want people to, like, come up on you in your sleep going, "Hey, Jim Bob, we need you back. The villains or whatever is back. We need you to solve another problem." No, you leave in the morning.
A bear ate my chickens.
A bear ate my chickens. I told you I was leaving. I rode off in the sunset. So what? So you get 3 miles outside of town and camp?
I've always had a weird feeling about people leaving in Western movies anyways. Because it's if you leave on a horse, it's going to be hours before they can't see you anymore. In a lot of those situations, like goodbye, and then you look back and wave again in like 20 minutes, then half an hour after that. Okay, you finally made it over the ridge. We can actually decide he's gone.
Wait, he's up on the next ridge. It's even higher.
Yeah, That's it. You know, it might be an all-day process to get where they can't see you. Oh, he's still leaving.
I think the more overplayed thing, because in a movie or even in a book, when someone departs, that's to like bring closure,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And even in TV shows, someone leaves, that's supposed to bring closure to something.
Yeah, to that act of the show or movie or whichever.
I would say that the more overplayed trope would be the stranger comes to town.
Oh yeah, well, some people we know would argue that there's only 3 stories ever written, and one of them is A Stranger Comes to Town.
See, but I think that's not really a story. I think that's a statement. A stranger comes to town. Well, no shit. How else did the town get populated?
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
I can't remember the other 2 stories they claim exist, but
My
everything's
dad
a
got
variation on that, on
Yeah.
these 3 core stories, or maybe it's only 2.
That's a different conversation.
Yeah,
But
sidetrack.
yeah. But even like Lord of the Rings, right? Stranger comes to town.
Pretty much.
Gandalf.
Mm-hmm.
In The Hobbit, Gandalf comes to town.
Yeah.
Okay. You do even. What's another good example?
Dirk A Stranger Comes to Town.
Indiana Jones comes to town.
Indiana Jones comes to town.
He's like a stranger to everyone.
Yeah.
Would you say that Indiana Jones is more of a samurai or a western?
A
samurai film or a western film?
It's a western.
You think it's a western?
It is the amalgamation of the swashbuckler and the western.
Oh, so he's a pirate.
Yeah, Indiana Jones is a pirate.
Indiana Jones is a pirate.
Basically, he's going looking for loot, which is treasure.
And about every movie, he ends up with a winch.
Yeah, Indiana Jones is a pirate.
Knocks them up.
Mm-hmm.
And gets Shia LaBeouf like 20 years later.
That didn't happen. That was a bad dream that someone had while trapped in a refrigerator.
Oh, that's another bad trope. The we're gonna do a reboot like 20 years later, and we're gonna say that there was a long lost forgotten son.
Yeah, that's bad.
That also happened in the last Die Hard movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. And his son's like an FBI agent.
Yeah, and stuff like that. I didn't watch it. I haven't seen that one.
It's
bad.
okay. It's
so
okay.
I should watch it.
It's Die Hard, except not as good.
What was it? A thing that I don't know if it's a trope, but I think needs to stop happening because it's a little trope-ish, is when they're breaking yet another installment in something, and like Indiana Jones did this, was there's the intros to the first 3 Indiana Jones movies always start with the Paramount logo, and then the Paramount logo fades in and becomes the scenery, right?
Right.
And then they made a joke of that famous, beloved intro by making the Paramount logo fade in and be a goddamn gopher hill.
Yeah.
It's taking something beloved from the original and making a joke out of it in your return to it.
I'm not sure if that is necessarily like a trope as much as it is just bad taste.
Yeah, it's something I don't care for.
I was watching an interesting article, like kind of similar, and it was talking about The Walking Dead.
Which
and
I
how
don't watch, but okay.
Well, at the beginning of every season, the Walking Dead logo becomes a little bit more decayed.
Oh, does it?
Yeah. So, like, if you did a side-by-side comparison of all 6 seasons of The Walking Dead, when it was new, it's, like, spotless and clean. And now it's, like, kind of beat up and grayed out. There's scratches across it. Yeah.
It's not so much a trope, but it's a progression of the story. I could probably get into a great long rant about the whole concept behind The Walking Dead, but I'll leave that alone.
Is there like a tornado going on behind you?
No, it's merely raining from the west.
It's waning. It's waning from the west.
Raining from the west. Damn you. Yes, but on the other hand, piss off, you pedantic bastard.
Fucking plebeians.
Uh.
So yeah, we've left tropes, but I'm gonna go back to them.
Good, because I was trying to go back to them and failing.
Oh, that's just because we were thinking about the westward Wayne. I keep on doing it.
Yeah, it's going to be stuck in your head now. I suppose one that could be considered a trope, and raining made me think of it, is and you see this in disaster movies, where the heroes or whatever are going through the disaster, and then there's this moment where they all stop and they look, and here's something going by like a cow on a boat. Just whatever, all calm, and they all stop and stare at it. Just this one incongruous moment in the middle of chaos.
Yeah, it's
every disaster movie does this, where there's the thing that's totally oblivious to what's going on around it, still doing its thing, and everyone stares at it as it goes off to its certain doom.
Kind of like in like Twister, you have the cow that's in the tornado, and there's this moment where they kind of pause and look at it, and as it goes by, it goes moo.
Yeah, or like any movie where like giant robots are fighting and they crash through a house, and there's the guy. It's always the janitor with headphones on, shining the floor, and like the building disappears behind him in a giant flurry of chaos, and he's still buffing the floor, and then he looks up and looks behind him, and he's shocked that it's gone because apparently janitors are the most focused people on Earth.
What was that war movie where they're like fighting down a street and these nuns just start walking across the street?
I don't know. That's the thing I believe would have happened, though.
Yeah, it's like this surreal moment, though, because they're all like staring at each other, and the nuns are like, "Screw you guys, we're nuns."
I saw the video of that happen in real life in Afghanistan. It wasn't nuns, though. It was just like a 1,000-year-old man. There's this firefight going on across a street into a big field, and this 1,000-year-old man on a bicycle just pedals right through the middle of it. Doesn't slow down, doesn't speed up, just... This is every day he pedals through a firefight on the way to whatever he's doing. And everyone around him looks at him like, really? And away he goes. It's like,
They also, what's a different... That's a good use of the... I think, to an extent, that happens. We have proof. So the trope is somewhat realistic.
Somewhat realistic, for once.
For once. Have you seen the movie Hero? The Jet Li film. I think Tarantino brought it over.
Yeah, I think I actually produced it.
Yeah, it's pretty good. But there's that one part where the guy is fighting the guy with the staff.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And the musician has just been there and he's about to leave. And then he like tosses him some coins.
And he sits back down and keeps playing.
Yeah, he sits back down. It's like life and death battle. We have a musician.
Yeah, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it to music.
Right, we're going to do this to music. We're going to play this fight off in our head, and then we're going to kill each other, or I'm going to kill you in one blow, or pretend to kill you.
Or whatever happened there.
Or whatever happened. We're not actually going to fight. The musician's just kind of there. Anyway, the old man is like the commonplace thing. It's the same trope, just with a different twist.
Yeah, he's just, this happens every day.
Every day. People like have sword fights here, and I play my instrument,
and they
give me money to keep on playing.
Sounds like a thing that should happen on a regular basis.
Rain is another trope. Like
the fact that John Cusack doesn't know how rain works.
John Cusack specifically?
John Cusack doesn't know how rain works. You watch John Cusack in any movie, and there's always a scene where he's out in the rain, sort of with this baffled look on his face, with no hat or umbrella or anything, just getting soaked. I saw a gallery of examples of this. It's like John Cusack has his own trope.
John Cusack, rain trope. I like that you changed his name to Cusack.
I can't talk. I don't know why we do a podcast, because me and English are having a very tenuous relationship.
I like it. It brings
John
flavor.
Cusack. Thank you. He has his own trope. He doesn't know how rain works.
The John Cusack, no rain, no knowledge of rain trope.
Yeah, like he's got this confused look on his face, like, why am I miserable?
But in a lot of situations, though, like rain is associated with like
Sadness.
not necessarily sadness. I was actually gonna say go away from sadness, right?
Okay.
It's like there's that moment in the film or the book where it's raining after the end of the fight, and then the rain parts and the sun comes out.
Oh, that redemption moment.
Yeah, the redemption trope.
Ooh,
Ooh,
that's perfect.
thunder. I miss I'm gonna go off topic for a second and say I miss West Texas thunderstorms.
Yeah, we get the best ones.
Oh man,
This is the second most horrifying place to have rainstorms in the whole of the world.
it's so good.
The only better place for thunderstorms are deep mountains.
The deep mountains
If you've
under
never
them,
been there for a thunderstorm, you ain't lived yet.
where the dwarves live.
Yeah. Or
But yeah, the redemption moment.
yeah, where the rain comes and washes away the evil, and the sun comes out, and everyone's all oh.
And so I was actually thinking about this one the other day, and I think that it's actually traced, or at least the earliest example. I know that there has to be earlier, but for me, the earliest example is Singing in the Rain, where they're like,
yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
because they're like all depressed and they're all going to be defeated, and they have this great idea of a talking picture, and he's like, oh man, I'm totally gonna make it with this girl, and then the rain is like forever synonymous with him dancing because he's gonna get some nookie.
Sure, if that sounds right. I haven't seen that movie in years.
It's good.
I've seen it, just not in years.
And I'm ready for love.
And I'm sure that in more modern movies, there's probably some easy argument about it being some kind of Catholic baptism allegory and some such hogwash. Well, because, like, you know, the rain comes out and it washes the blood of the fight off of them, and the sun comes out and they're clean, and the good things are happening. Yeah, see? You can totally make that ridiculous argument if you felt like it.
You can actually even use a film like V for Vendetta for this, because like she goes through her transformation,
and then she goes outside in the rain right after all that.
And she's like, and she goes, "God is in the rain."
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And then she cries, and then it's like this redemption moment.
Yeah.
It's like the rain washes away everything.
When
like in Planet
Andy
of the World,
DeFontaine comes out of the sewer at the end of oh bloody hell. Andy comes out of the sewer at the end of the movie where it's Shawshank Redemption. He's standing there being washed from the sewers in the rainstorm, and he's redeemed and free.
Redeemed and free. Somehow making it down to Mexico. Somehow. No help from the outside world. Just hoofs it.
Yep. Right. He's got really good shoes.
Really good shoes. I think they make a point of that.
Could be.
The great shoes of Andy Dufresne.
Yeah, Andy Dufresne.
So irritating tropes that I just hate. The good guy gets incapacitated somehow and becomes evil, or is replaced by an evil lookalike.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. And I'm pretty sure there's like half a dozen Star Trek episodes, a couple Stargate episodes, and it happens all the time in science fiction. It's a popular thing there because it sets it up for it to be possible.
Right.
And on a semi-regular basis in fantasy, where it's also possible. Hardly ever. I actually think that it's more rated. Like, I think it was more rooted in like soap opera bullshit. Oh well, yeah. Soap operas are probably the best for it, for the evil twin.
Yeah.
Or some such nonsense.
But it's gotten to a point, especially with like modern shows, that if they start pulling that crap, I'm like, okay, the hero is gonna be bad this season or bad for half this season. I'm just like, I don't care. I'm gonna turn you off.
Yeah. Like Star Trek did it with Data more than once, with the Data and Lore thing.
Lore.
And you're just like, oh, great, we're going to have one of these episodes.
Yeah, it's like I honestly I get to a lore episode where it's not clearly data and lore like
Skip.
separated. I'm like skip.
I watched them
I,
all. It was hard.
I've watched them all once, but when
What
I
was harder was
rewatched
watching
them,
all of Stargate Voyager, which I remember from my youth as being better than that.
Stargate Voyager,
Star Trek Voyager. My
Star
apologies. I am in two worlds.
Stargate Voyager. The team, led by their fearless captain, enters the Stargate and comes out onto a lush tropical forest.
They made that
turns
show.
into a grid.
What was that?
Atlantis?
No, the second, the last Stargate show that got canceled in the middle.
SG1?
Nope, that was the first one. There was
SG
Atlantis, and then it was
69.
Stargate Generation or something stupid. They were on a ship.
They were on a ship?
It was Stargate Voyager for all intents and purposes.
Did they have a time warp?
No, a spaceship.
Spaceship.
Yeah,
Because
wow.
if you can go
Was it
anywhere,
Stargate Universe? Yeah, it was SGU.
so you can go
That was
anywhere using this portal device. So what do?
Get stuck on a ship. Well,
Put it on a starship.
the plot of it was this starship was going around installing Stargates, and it's all pre-programmed, right? And it's like in another, fixing to leave our galaxy to jump to another one, and they found the address for it and got there right as it was leaving, and it jumped, and then like so they've got a Stargate on there, but there's already gates there from a ship that went ahead of that ship, and so they're occasionally can dial off the ship and go visit planets and do things. It was freaking Stargate Voyager for all intents and purposes. Now that I think about it,
So the rehashed storyline trope.
it got and then they abandoned the show right as it had the potential to not suck anymore.
I.e., they blew up the ship.
No, like I think that's how it ended. It was like the guys running to try to save the ship, and it cliffhangered off. And you're like, oh well.
Huh. Oh well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
The cliffhanger ending could really.
the cliffhanger is definitely a trope.
The cliffhanger ending to seasons. There's one show that I like that does this every season is Grimm. Like they do this, and like they actually made a joke out of it a couple seasons ago. Like it clips off and then it comes on the screen. Were you expecting anything different? And you're just like, you bastards! Just show me what happens.
But I like the
It does show a
subtle,
supreme confidence from the writers that they're getting renewed.
I like the subtle season ending cliffhanger.
Where everything's wrapping up nicely, and then right before the end, you're like, wait, what?
And then you're like, wait a second. It's like Cheers was great about this, right?
Another show
Like-
I
like-
never
like-
watched an entire season of in one sitting.
Oh man, I've watched them all.
Yeah.
But like the season ender where Diane walks out, who's like Sam's true love, right? Diane walks out, and so you're like, holy shit, that's a cliffhanger right there. And then next season starts, and Diane's still gone. And they're like, what happened to Diane? He goes, I don't know.
Wow. That's a good cold open.
Here's the commitment to it though. She doesn't come back until the last episode.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, that is good.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's like a really long cliffhanger. It's a cliffhanger that goes to the finale like 4 seasons later.
Huh. That's great.
Yeah, but much better. Much better. I'll take a cliffhanger any day of the week, even if it's a cliffhanger for a show or a book that doesn't get continued.
Yeah.
Because then at least my imagination's there. It's way better than stop force feeding me that this guy is my hero, or he's trying to be a hero, or even worse, purposefully being bad to throw off his friends.
This is becoming a trope, I think. Here's one that bothers the hell out of me. Is the incredibly unlikable second protagonist. Like you've got your main character and they're cool and you're with that, and then they get stuck with this person that you hate, Like they're obnoxious or difficult, or they just make the show
Oh,
they
like
make everything difficult for the protagonist, but they're on the same side.
so like the annoying sidekick.
Not even the knowing side. It's like they're just really unpleasant characters.
What's an example of this?
Hell, I can't think of one right now, and I was all angry about it in a show I was watching recently.
Huh.
But just
Well,
like the supremely
I get you.
uncooperative, like it happens a lot in like police procedurals and cop shows. Like they get paired up with someone, and they just can't work together for shit, but they just keep plugging away at it. Like okay, any good commanding officer would separate these two, but he just forces them to keep working together.
Wait, wasn't that part of the premise of Grimm? Like he's working with like a vegan hipster werewolf.
That's not the same though, because it's not forced upon, and it works though.
Because I hated that werewolf guy.
Yeah, he gets better.
He gets better.
But I'm trying to think of
Or Seinfeld. Everyone in Seinfeld is an annoying protagonist.
Could be
secondary protagonist to Seinfeld.
It's that or the impossibly powerful antagonist.
Impossibly powerful.
Well, let me try to think of a good example. That stupid show, The Following, did this, and it keeps doing this. The gist of it is this guy is a serial killer, and then he starts raising himself a cult of serial killers. And okay, bad premise, probably, right?
God.
But like, the FBI is like right on his tail all the time, and he keeps defeating them and killing people and getting away. Like, kills someone with a boat hook in the middle of a crowded restaurant and just strolls out, and no one tries to stop him. And the cops are completely at a loss as to how to catch him, and they have to get their one guy that knows him. And it's like, it comes to a point where like, okay, no one could ever get away with all this shit in such a grandiose fashion and not be caught or dead by now.
Mm-hmm.
The overly skillful antagonist.
Yeah, the overly skillful antagonist. See, I think
where they give you an antagonist that's so beyond human capability that it stops being believable when they're supposed to just be a human, and not magic or anything.
So I've been rereading a lot of these old fantasy books that I read as a kid or in my early 20s. And something that I'm finding I really love about them that I don't see these days in many forms of media is the truly subversive, almost unseen villain. Right? Like it feels like in order to have a villain these days, they have to be over the top.
Yeah, and overtly evil.
Really evil. Really hideous, and you have to like get into their head, and you have to see like their like slight chance of humanity or whatnot. There's like no true like villain that you have like Moriarty in a classic Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
Right? It's like that there's this greater evil. That somewhere it's out there, but you just don't know enough.
Right.
And like so you like look for the clues. I don't see any subtlety in that anymore.
Yeah, there's a lot of lack of subtlety in the things that are being made these days. I've ranted about this one before, but there's a little bit going on of having where the protagonist never wins.
Oh God, I hate that.
And you're just like, okay, can we either be done with this show and have them finally die, or can they finally win? Because it's just pounding their head against a brick wall for a season and a half is really getting old.
Like how hard is it to just have like an episode or a scene or a couple scenes where nothing goes wrong, and like you build something else that's important, like do some fracking world building.
Yeah, well, the whole thing is like, and I can understand what they're trying to do, and they're failing at it, is they're trying to beat the protagonist down so far that the victory is that much sweeter. The problem is they beat them down so far that when they finally have a victory, it's not sweet enough to compensate for everything else. And
yeah,
so
it's
you feel like you're just like, okay, that's a good start, but now we need to go murder his entire family.
Or Or it's like, okay, good job. You should just quit now.
Yeah. And yet it just drags on and on. You're just like, you're not winning. Even though you won that, you're still not winning. This is not how winning works.
It's
It's
I
like
mean,
the most recent X-Men movie.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
You really haven't?
No, I really haven't. I haven't seen Apocalypse yet.
I'll give you this much. When they finally win at the end, because they win at the end, because that's how these movies work.
I would hope so. I didn't see
it
that
doesn't
there was a
feel
part
like
2.
winning because of everything that happened.
But that's kind of a thing for the X-Men movies. I mean, like, the one ended with Wolverine, like, skewering Jean Grey.
Yeah.
I mean, so...
But, like, this on a much more grand level, you're like, yeah, sure, that doesn't count as winning.
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of lost.
Yeah, I'm kind of had it with all these things happen. Oh, but we won. No, not winning.
No, you didn't win. That is not winning. Well, what you've just done is get your face curb stomped, but you kept your life.
It's more
Good
like
job.
you got curb stomped, but you're happy you still have a tooth. They're gonna take that tooth when they make you a whole new face.
Yeah, and the forever losers trope is definitely
Real
up
played
and
out
coming
right now.
and really prevalent.
I've had enough of the forever losers trope. We need some people to be winners for a while.
Yeah, that's what I kind of liked about like kind of more recent shows, Eureka and Warehouse 13.
And then it nosedived on that concept. They started losing a lot at the end.
Well, the show was ending.
Yeah, like I said, they took the good parts of the plot and ended it on some bad notes. But
it's still anyway.
An interesting example of that goes against the always be losing trope is the Jack Reacher novels. There's in the foreword of the first one, he's like, I started writing these novels because I was tired of having heroes that kept losing fights all the time. He literally went looking for a genre of novel that he wanted, and it didn't exist, and so he wrote one. He wanted his heroes to be big badasses that walked into the room and know they were going to win every fight in it. And so they become a guilty pleasure of mine because that's the character I want to read sometimes. You know, I want to know that this guy's going to win when he walks in the room.
Yeah. I kind of want to see how he's going to do it. I know he's going to win.
It's like he's going to win. How's he going to do it this time?
Yeah.
And they've made another one of those movies, surprisingly, after the first one did so poorly. But, yeah. The first one, like, there are some of those books, it's surprising. That's a weird thing I've never seen an author do before. The first one of those books is written in the first person, which is something I normally hate because it makes it sometimes very uncomfortable and weird to read. And then the subsequent, 6 are written in the normal third-person perspective that you write a novel in. And then, the 7th one is in first person again. I may have the positioning of the numbers wrong on the subsequents, but the first one's first person, then there are several not, and then there's another one in first person. So you come in, if you're reading through them, you come to that one, you're like, wait, this again?
Oh, man. So, in other news, we are now on more podcast platforms.
Yay! Which ones are we on?
More.
More. Excellent.
We're on, Google Play, Intune, Pineapple Express.
That's a thing?
Monkey Butter. I don't know.
I'm going to assume that some of these words you made up.
Where all good podcasts can be found.
Where all good podcast products can be found, you will also find us.
Bottom shelf.
Bottom shelf, next to the one about...
Discount.
I'm not sure what we're next to. Something awful.
Proteus podcast. Now ad-free.
Now ad-free.
So find us on whichever of your favorite podcasting platform you would like and leave a review. We'd appreciate it.
Yes, and like she said, any podcasting platform you like. YouTube, Twitter, those other things.
Google
Stitcher,
Plus.
Google Plus. Leave us an email. We will
At
happily
Proteus.
respond to the first email we get.
ProteusPodcast@gmail.com.
So do you have a quote for today?
I do.
Oh, good.
If I can find it. Okay, I got it. From Terry Pratchett.
Oh, good.
The reason that cliches become cliches is that they are the hammers and screwdrivers in the toolbox of communication.
Huh.
That's mine.
That sounds good.
Did I take your quote?
No, mine's
One day
from Dr. Thurmond, a character in the Chicago Hope TV show. And this
Really?
quote is, you see that
Chicago
man over
Hope?
there? He's the anesthesiologist. His job is to keep the patient from running away. Because I wanted my quote to be funny.
Because you wanted it to be funny. So you quoted Chicago Hope.
Listen, that was a pretty good show.
So
And that line made me laugh every time I read it.
I was living in Chicago at the time that Chicago Hope came out. And their tagline for it, like their whole like big promo for Chicago in it, was finally a city about you. A city about Chicago.
And
then it showed
I can't think like that.
And then it showed the obligatory like ambulance lights woo, 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 going down the street to Chicago Hope. Oh man, the good old days.
Back in the days. I
So,
saw a picture of the McDonald's logo from the 90s and felt weirdly nostalgic.
Weirdly nostalgic. Did you want a cheeseburger?
A little. More like chicken nuggets. Anyways, are you jaded this
Not
week?
the same anymore. Now they're all white meat.
Yeah, it's not the same. Are you jaded?
Yes.
Damn. How jaded are you?
8.
An 8. Wow, I'm like an 8 too.
I'm pretty jaded this week.
Pretty jaded this week.
I'm pretty not happy with the world. The world has not been treating me well.
Unfortunately, it's not the universe's job to entertain me, and it apologizes for any inconvenience this may have caused.
No, it doesn't.
The universe at large may apologize.
It said, screw you, I curb stomped you. Be glad you have a tooth.
Be glad you have a tooth. Anyways, I think that's all for this week.
I think that's all I can handle.
Yeah.
Who are you again?
I've been Jacob.
And I'm still Danielle.
Have a good night, everyone.